Welcome to A Pair of Bookends, the book club you can carry anywhere. I'm your host, Hannah MacDonald, and I'll be bookending the conversation with some of the most exciting voices from the bookish world. For today's episode, I am thrilled to be joined by returning guest of the podcast, Louise Beech, to discuss her latest book, Wonderful, a reimagining of a world in which Marilyn Monroe didn't die and instead went on to live a long and fulfilling life. Wonderful is not only a brilliant tribute to one of Hollywood's most iconic stars, it's a uniting of women, three women from three very different and yet not entirely dissimilar eras. Wonderful is out now and you can grab your copy via the link in the show notes. Author of Wonderful, Louise Beech, also known as Louise Swanson, is the author of 11 novels and a memoir, 18 Seconds, which was published in 2023. Her debut, How to Be Brave, was a Guardian Reader's Pick. The Lion Tamer Who Lost was shortlisted for the Romantic Novel Awards 2019 and longlisted for the Polari Prize the same year. Call Me Stargirl was Best Magazine's Book of the Year. This Is How We Are Human was a Claire McIntosh book club pick, and the audiobook of her memoir was shortlisted for the Audie's 23. Her thrillers End of Story and Lights Out, which is what we had Louise on the podcast to talk about as Louise Swanson. The former End of Story was chosen by Sophie Hannah as a Book of the Year in the Daily Mail, and the latter, Lights Out, was reviewed by The Times. Her debut play, How to Be Brave, toured Yorkshire venues in 2024, and now Louise is back with a novel that is arguably closest to her heart, which is wonderful. Here to discuss it with me, welcome back, Louise, to A Pair of Bookends.
Thank you. I was trying to think, how long ago was it I was on here? Was it about 2 years ago, 3 years ago?
I think it could have been 2 years ago, yeah. Feels like it wasn't even that long ago.
I don't even think I was in this office, was I? Can you remember? Was I in here or was I in a different room?
I feel like you were, maybe you were in this room. I don't know. I feel like didn't you have a colourful picture behind you, or am I making that up?
No, you're not making it up. I was my other house, so it's more than 2 years ago because I've lived here for 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, where does time go?
Wow. And now you've got the gorgeous Marilyn behind you,
I know.
not only in picture form, but you also have an amazing doll.
A crocheted doll. We just joked before, didn't we, that if she moves, I'm leaving this podcast immediately.
Yeah, we can't sit around and wait to see what happens with Marilyn 2.0.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Can you imagine?
No, don't imagine it. You'll manifest it.
No, I don't want to do that. Before we dive into your book and the writing process of this book, I would love to ask you what you're reading at the moment.
I'm exactly between books. So what I'll do is I'll tell you what I've just read and I'll tell you what I'm about to read.
Perfect. We love that.
Yeah, exactly. So I literally have just finished one, about to start another. So I just finished an amazing book called Marilyn and Her Books, which is a factual book written by Gail Crowther. And it's kind of shows, as my book does a little bit, the real Marilyn, the Marilyn people don't always know, the intelligent Marilyn. And it's about the 400 books that were in her house when she died. And it sort of goes into why she picked them, if she met the author. And it's just stunning. So as a book lover and a Marilyn lover, it was absolutely perfect. So I really highly recommend. And then I was at Harrogate Crime Festival.
Yes.
I'm so lucky. I got a proof of Callie Taylor's new one.
Amazing.
Called Notes on an Obsession. So that's on my pile to go next.
Amazing. I am so intrigued by the 400 books that were on Marilyn's shelves.
Well, I know what they are. She doesn't obviously talk about every single one, although I believe there's a list in the book, but she sort of goes into certain ones that really mattered to Marilyn. I mean, there are some greats and some classics on there, and people might say, well, that was to be pretentious. No, it wasn't, because she didn't tell anyone.
No.
Share that. So it wasn't.
Another misconception, isn't it?
Yeah.
Tell us about Harrogate. How was your weekend? Have you recovered yet?
Just about. I've got that little hangover that you get.
Yeah.
Just it was a good one. Yeah, it was a really good one. I felt like I saw everyone I wanted to see. I did the panels I wanted to do. I got the book signed that I wanted to get signed. Yeah, so it felt satisfying.
Good. Is it I've never been. Is it very manic?
It can be. It can be madness. You've got to, if you ever go, ask me and I'll give you some tips. You've got to pace yourself. You can't do it all.
Yeah.
Carry snacks, carry water, have a vague plan. And when you're done, you're done. Like, some people stay on late into the night, usually about sort of between 7:30 and 9. I'm usually done. And I
done
go.
by them.
And just
it's a long day, isn't it?
It's a long day.
Yeah.
So yeah, But so yeah, message me if you ever do it.
I will. I think well,
You've
I
got no
know.
excuse. You're a northerner. Get yourself
I
there.
know, I need to go. I can't believe I've not been. I mean, shamefully, considering how big it is in the publishing world, I'm not a massive crime thriller
Right.
reader.
Yeah, that's fair
So I
enough.
read the odd one, but just not as much as other people do. But I've been getting such FOMO this weekend. I'm like, I really need to up my game.
Yeah, that's what
Um,
I feel like. I always go because I feel like if I don't go, I'm going to sit at home and just cry when I see everybody
yeah,
having
yeah.
fun.
I've been seeing Susie from In My Good Books. You have
Yeah.
been on Susie's podcast as well, haven't you?
Oh,
And
oh,
she's amazing. And I was messaging her saying, I want one of your fans because she's had these amazing
yes.
fans made. And I said, I need one. She was like, oh, well, come and join me. Like, why don't
Oh,
you come? Like, just come for the day. And I was like, oh, I can't. But I was really gutted. I was like, oh, why didn't I just do it?
you should. You should
Kick it
have just gone.
myself.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't get a fan either, by the way. I also messaged her and said, keep one for me. But then by the time she was one of the last people I saw, she didn't have any left
They'd
by.
all gone.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
fuming.
So,
Come on, Suze, give us one. But let's get into Wonderful. Could you set up the story of Wonderful for the listeners? I know I gave a brief summary, but in your words, what is Wonderful about?
So for me, first of all, obviously, it is about Marilyn and about the real Marilyn that people often don't know, the kind of the sensitive, street smart, intelligent woman who was really looking for love and a family, ultimately. But then I knew there would be deeper things. You've read some of my books. I always go a bit deeper than that. There are always many, many layers and many sort of topics in there. It's always also about the strength of women's voices and how when women come together to share their stories truthfully, there's kind of this powerful strength in that, when women listen to each other, talk to each other. So it's a little bit about that. Then it's also about how women in the fame world, which we can include the Virgin Mary, I'll come to Virgin Mary, which we can include her in that really, how women are expected to be perfect, not
Mm.
having flaws, they can't age, they can't make mistakes, right? And if they do, they will just get ripped apart, horrendously. So it kind of explores a little bit of that, which hasn't changed from Marilyn's day to
Yeah, it's really not.
Mary's day. The reason I mentioned the Virgin Mary is because basically the gist of the book is that on the night Marilyn was meant to die, the Virgin Mary appears to her, gives her a message, and so she decides to leave behind the house that she loves, the fame that she doesn't love so much now, leave everything behind and go and have this other life. Now, people might think, Virgin Mary, that's random. Why does she? Why? What? That's because while Marilyn's been my idol my whole life, my grandma's idol was Mary, and Mary was on my grandma's wall.
Oh.
And I just thought that's not dissimilar, is it, to worship
Mm.
a star as to worshipping Mary? It's a very similar thing.
Yeah.
And I've kind of therefore loved Mary because my grandma's long gone now. So when I see Mary, I think of my grandma, and I've got one picture in my house that was in my grandma's house of Mary. So there's kind of a soft spot for her, and I just began to see these similarities between the two women that no one might expect. This perfection that they're expected to be, and how their story is often told by men.
Hmm.
I mean, I feel like now we women, I feel, are reclaiming Marilyn now. That's a big feeling I have, that women are telling her story now as it should have been told.
Yeah.
What I mean, which is good. So there's a long-winded.
No. I love hearing all about it. And I love that story of your grandmother. And I was surprised at Virgin Mary's feature in your book because I mean, I obviously don't know and I wouldn't ask, but I was like, oh, I wasn't sure if you were quite religious yourself. And that makes so much sense that there is actually a crossover between, who people that are religious choose to worship and who we might worship if we're not religious. For yourself, you say that Marilyn is sort of that idol for you, which I think is a really like gorgeous comparison.
No, and the minute I thought of it, I then thought it seems like the most obvious thing in the world.
Yeah,
Even their names are similar, because Marilyn is actually Mary Lynn.
yeah,
That's what
yeah.
it is. And like the fact that, as we know, Mary would not have been blue-eyed and, pale-skinned. And we know she wouldn't have looked like that.
Yeah.
But isn't it interesting? That's how she's been painted. Just like in a way, Marilyn always had to have the face on, the lipstick, the blue eyes, the blonde hair. It's like, this sort of look was important. Mary, God love her, probably was just a very poverty-stricken, plain-looking girl. Really, I doubt she looked the way that she's painted. So yeah, there are just so many female issues to explore, I think, with the two of them. Do you know what I mean?
Definitely. In the sort of dedication page in your book, you wrote that a lifetime of love meant that the research had already been undertaken. And I'd love to find out when your sort of love affair with Marilyn Monroe began.
Yeah, it has been a lifetime, definitely. So I was about 12 and I saw this poster in HMV of this woman. It wasn't the one behind me that's on my office wall. It was black and white, but it was a slightly different one. I didn't know who she was then. I was just fascinated by this poster. It just drew me in. So I buy this poster, not knowing who she is. And then I get it home, put it on the bedroom wall above the bed. And at the bottom, it did say Marilyn Monroe. So I'm like, right, well, that's what her name is, But we didn't have the internet then. I couldn't just go Google who is Marilyn Monroe. I just like, who is this woman? So that began that. But that night, this is the weird part. I always have a weird story. That night, I was going to say, this is why I ended up obsessed. This is the reason. That night, I had this really, really intense dream that I was in this water with her and we were kind of holding on to the edge, and then she said to me, I'm going to let go now. And I was heartbroken. I was trying to persuade her, no, don't let go, stay. And she let go, and I knew that meant she'd gone. And I woke up and I was just really sad, and I looked at the poster, and for a minute it looked like she was crying, even though she was laughing on the poster, and I was like really spooked. By the way, let's just say I was 12, probably hormonal, so probably Next day, I tell my friend this, and she's like, oh, Louise, you're a weirdo. And I said, why? What? She said, Marilyn Monroe died 21 years ago last night. I was like, there was a documentary on last night, and I watched it with my parents. It was about her death because it was the anniversary. I was like, I didn't know that. I never knew that. It's just weird.
Oh my God.
I don't know if it was just a weird, I admit it was just a coincidence probably, but I still was like, oh.
I mean, you say it's a coincidence, but I think, we've just referenced faith, and like faith is something that crops up a few times in the book, but it's not necessarily just in a religious sense. It's also in terms of like Marilyn is always looking for those signs, which I wonder if there's a sort of connection between, do you think you're the type of person that looks for signs, or is that the type of person that you knew Marilyn to be from the research that you've done? How did those aspects come into it?
A little bit of both. From what I've read, she did pick up on certain things meaning things. Like she did like numbers, she did like astrology and that kind of thing. So that really was real, but I just upped that a little bit for the book. Yeah, I do look for signs. I am one of those people who's like, like if you see one magpie, like, where's the other? Come on.
Yeah. Oh, me too.
Definitely. Listen, luckily we get loads in our garden, so there's very rarely one. I'm always like, come on, where's it? There you are. We're all right now. So I'm that kind of person. And I don't know, just little signs where I love coincidences. Coincidences to me say that you're on the right path.
Yeah.
I don't know, say if you're thinking of a certain thing and you turn the TV on and it's mentioned, then you think, right, I'm supposed to do that. I've had that before. So I do believe in it. So yeah, maybe being 12, I mean, that is a big coincidence. It is, yeah. But then I try and be logical because I've got a slight logical side, more mystical probably. Not religious, but definitely, I don't know, spiritual is maybe the word.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are spiritual without being religious. And so, yeah, so it is definitely a theme that I wanted to explore. I do get sometimes told off by readers for doing too many coincidences in books, but it's only because they really happen to me.
Yeah.
So I believe them. I'm like, but it does happen. It's one of those unusual things. But that strange coincidence of Marilyn and the dream and everything, that led to me then doing all the research. I used to go to the library, get books about her. Obviously, like I said, there was no internet then. Watch documentaries when her films were on TV, and I just ended up just like obsessed. And so I've probably read just about every book there is and every film and every documentary. And so like your quote that you picked up, it meant writing the book in that aspect was easy. I felt like I knew her. I checked everything. I mean, don't get me wrong, certain dates of things happening in her life, I would check. I didn't want to get that wrong. But her general life, I knew well enough to tell the story and then just go and, make sure the actual facts, dates, places were 100% correct, because I wanted that to be. Because before she then has her new life, which I had to imagine, everything's based on facts. Do you get me? I tried to really stick to the factual history. Yeah.
Yeah, and knowing her as well as you do, you say that you've read everything and watched everything there is to consume about Marilyn, and I imagine coming to this book there was already so much knowledge there. But what were the sort of touchstones that you maybe returned to whilst writing this book? Were there any, documentaries or books in particular that you're like, oh, those are amazing for me to come back to when I'm ever sort of stuck whilst
Mm.
writing this book?
That's such a good question because yes, I did. I thought one of my all-time favourite Marilyn books, and if anyone likes her and hasn't read it and wants to get to know the real her, is a book written. She did have a half sister who was out of the limelight, so no one really knew, and she actually wrote a book called My Sister Marilyn. And it's absolutely gorgeous because it's just about this young woman, not a star, just a young woman who was her sister, and the few times that they met up. And it's a real joy to read because you kind of see who she might have been if Hollywood hadn't got hold of her. Just the lovely joy in her, and she's got a good sense of humour, and she's very caring, very down to earth. And it's a real eye opener of a person who knew her and loved her,
Hmm.
writing a book about her, rather than a biographer
Yeah,
who is coming at it from a point of being salacious and selling the books and wants to, explore who she slept with and what
yeah.
happened when she died. This is completely the opposite of that, and it's just magic, and it's got some gorgeous original pictures of them both when they were younger. And
Oh.
so I dipped into that because I thought I'm writing about the real Marilyn, so that's the book
Yeah,
really that
that's
is the
true,
real.
probably the truest to her.
Yeah, to
Yeah,
have your relative write about you, because that's the only book where a relative, because God love her, her mum was mentally ill,
right.
probably schizophrenia, her dad was absent. So that was the only relative really who could write about her. Because I think even the fact that some of her husbands have written about her, it's not in the same loving way as a sister
No.
writes about her.
Yeah, I mean, her sister's relationship is
Yeah,
it's a special one, I
yeah.
think. And there is another sister dynamic in this story. We're not giving any spoilers,
Oh,
so
I know which spoiler you mean. I have to be so careful about
I can
that.
imagine. But there is another sister dynamic in this story, and that is Flora. That's the other perspective that we get, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah,
And her sister Bella.
yeah.
And I wondered if you could tell us a little bit about why you wanted to have a contemporary perspective in there, first of all, with Flora, and then a little bit about Flora and Bella's dynamic.
Yeah, I often think that a storyline with two people or even three, and I know Mary doesn't get the full storyline, she's a bit more mythical, but I often think it brings a bit of balance and different perspective to a book.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? I also
absolutely.
thought I'd really also like to throw into the mix of these two icons a really normal woman girl, everyday, someone we either are or we know.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So down to earth. And so Flora was very easy to write because there are aspects of me in there. I've been in her situation in the past when I was a young single mum. I was living on the breadline, you know what I mean? Had to add up my pennies, lived in a not very nice place. So that came from a place of truth and also just her trauma and desperation. And I thought to make it really parallel, why don't I make her 36 like Marilyn was when she died
Yeah.
and sort of have them both at this crisis point? Because obviously we know Marilyn was, and she's at this crisis point of what am I going to do with my life? Her mum is similar to Marilyn, is pretty absent, not a good mother, but she's just got this one sister that she absolutely loves, who sadly has a lot of mental health issues, but they have this super, super tight bond. And yes, there is a big reveal as to why that bond is so extra special. And I just thought the two opposite characters, because I admit when I started out, I didn't quite know how it was going to bring them together. I knew I had to. I knew somehow I've got to bring these people together slowly. And then I was maybe halfway when I started to see how that was going to be. I won't give any spoilers away. I got so excited thinking, I'm going to do this. We're going to get Marilyn in Hull.
Marilyn
I
Monroe.
couldn't do it.
I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed. I love it. And I was saying this to my boyfriend last night. I love that with your books, there is going to be that northern representation in there. We'd
Oh,
love to see that.
yeah, I bet
Not
she would
seen
have
enough.
come here if she'd lived. Of course, she would have come here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why not? Why not? Who
Now,
wouldn't?
I don't know if this is a spoiler to say, so we can cut this out if it is a spoiler. But both Marilyn and Flora, I think you mentioned the Marilyn one actually, but both Marilyn and Flora have these visitations
Yeah,
from
that's
the Virgin
fine.
Mary,
Yeah,
and it's fine to
yeah,
say that about Flora, isn't
yeah,
it?
yeah, totally. Because it's right
Um,
at the start of the book, so it's fine.
Perfect. So these visitations, where did the idea come from for these visitations that they receive and how it might impact the two of them?
So it was a little bit of me wanting Mary to be part of it, and then I did think, how am I going to make use of Mary? And then I'm obviously knowing that somehow I've got to get Marilyn away from this house on the night she's going to die.
Yeah.
You know, how am I going to get her away from that? It's got to be something absolutely mammoth. You know, it can't just be a friend saying, "Oh, Marilyn, you know, I'm worried about you. Why don't you try something?" It's got to be mammoth to get her to do
Yeah.
that and escape from this. And obviously, I thought, if I'm doing that for Marilyn, I need to do that for Flora.
Yeah.
And so then I just thought, right, Mary, this is how we'll use you. And I looked into her visitations over the years. You know, if you believe that, you know, Mary has appeared over the years. There's the famous one in Lourdes where she appeared to a young peasant girl, and they now Lourdes now people go every year for the holy water because she appeared there. My grandma used to go. She used to go every year.
Wow.
You know, bring back holy water. God love her. She was like, you know, don't drink the holy water. She put it on top of the cabinet. We did drink the holy water when we replaced it with tap water. Wish she never knew. Sorry, Grandma. She never knew we did that. We did.
Now,
We
if
drank.
Marilyn starts moving, we know what's going on.
Oh God, don't. You know what? That holy water tasted just like tap water. I'm
How
telling you now.
interesting.
So yeah, I knew I could use Mary. I could use Mary in that way. So she has a huge purpose in the book. You know, she's there to literally kickstart the changes that they make with these kind of cryptic messages that she gives them both, that they can use how they wish to use them. You know, so she's not telling them what to do.
No,
She's giving these little clues as to right, you know, maybe this, maybe that.
I definitely need to read up more on people that have had visitations
Yeah, there's a lot. And
because
apparently it does get checked by the Vatican when it happens.
that's
Obviously,
crazy.
they take that very seriously.
Yeah.
I now, you know, I get up tomorrow and Mary's in my kitchen, apart from I'd be like blown away, obviously. And I come straight back to you and said, you know what? After our session, Mary turned up. But I would say if it got out, if you know what I mean, the local church apparently would come and speak to you and they would decide, is it worthy, serious enough? And then it would get investigated. And apparently, if it's really, really believed that it happens, it gets verified by the Vatican. And
Wow.
yeah, and then that's when the site probably becomes somewhere holy. So, you know, your house would probably have a plaque or something and people come in. So I don't
Oh my
know.
God. Knocking on your door.
I don't know how you'd prove it though. Interesting.
No. How?
How would you prove that if you
No.
don't have evidence that, I don't know.
It's
I
just
don't
something, maybe it's, I don't know, how could they prove that? Because
know.
even going off what you say, it can't even be that you sound legit.
No,
Like, how would they verify how legit you are?
this is true because you're not going to have evidence. I
No.
mean, unless you these days, I suppose you could maybe get a photo because we have phones. Maybe don't know. Yeah, do you know what I mean?
As soon as you take your
Genuinely.
camera phone out, it just
Yeah, just do
disappears.
a selfie, Mary. Let's just get a snap so I can tell the Vatican.
Can
That
you
would be
imagine?
amazing. Oh my God. That would be really good for the book. Mary, come on. It would be really good to promote the book.
Great publicity. Get the Vatican on it as well.
Yeah.
But due to this visitation that Flora has, she becomes sort of drawn after this visitation towards working for a charity called Care,
Yeah.
and it's a place that her sister was also a service user of when dealing with her own mental health struggles. Could you tell us a bit about what Care represents for you and why it was, I guess, important for you to show what these type of services offer for women?
It's really interesting because I've just realised, well, I haven't just realised, I've thought about it on and off, that probably half, if not half, nearly half of my books have a theme of voluntary work in there.
Mm,
There's In the Mountain in My Shoe, there's the Befriender service for children in care. Lion Tamer Who Lost has a Lion Sanctuary. Maria in the Moon has a Samaritans type helpline. End of Story has a helpline where you get fairy tales. And I'm like, it's a really common theme for me. Now, I admit I've done voluntary work, so it's sort of quite deep in my heart. I've done
yeah,
and I've volunteered with children in care before. So the rewards that doing that it gave me is like no other thing, perhaps apart from writing. Maybe it's similar to that, just so rewarding to give something for nothing and feel that you may be genuinely helping other people. So I think that's why that theme finds its way into my book. But this is the first voluntary service I've written, yeah, where it is literally for women
yeah,
go and be safe and have a place to go where you don't necessarily have to answer any questions as to why you're there. You could just turn up and be like, I'm fed up and I'm tired and I need a break, and they will take you in for as long as you need, because wouldn't that be an incredible set? Wouldn't that be amazing
Yeah.
to have that? And really, it came about because when I had to envision what's Marilyn's journey going to be and what's Flora's journey going to be, I have to think of this thing that unites them, I suppose. And so I could see the building of this care building very clearly. I can see it now. I can almost step into it. And so, yeah, I thoroughly loved writing and creating sort of the ethos behind that, and creating, which I won't spoil, how it comes about, and how it then brings certain people together. Yeah, I love writing about volunteer services, or just services that help people. I
It's
love it.
such a special place, this care, and I know
Yeah.
it's fictional, but it's
One
a
needs to do
really,
it.
yeah, it's a really beautiful thing that these women can just show up,
Yeah.
and regardless of where they've come from, what money they have, anything like that, it doesn't matter. They're just taken in and given a space to sort of process and to be taken care of, and to sort of have the burden kind of shared. Yeah, I think it's a really beautiful thing. I really liked that aspect of the story. And sort of on that, you do throughout this book explore the different ways shame affects women, whether it's shame that is put on them, whether it's shame that they feel within themselves. It manifests in a variety of different ways and for a variety of different reasons. I wondered if you could tell us a bit about shame and how it, ended up featuring so heavily in this book.
So I knew that, having done the research, that Marilyn as a child was abused in a foster home, and that touched me. It was one of the many things that I just felt when I learned about Marilyn. Oh, we're similar. I meant that as a woman, as in not just me, but me as a woman, as another woman.
Yeah.
Oh, we are similar. She's like us. And the absent mum, I've had that. My mum was in and out of hospital when I was growing up. So the shame thing, I think a lot of that was what drove Marilyn to be accepted and to find love in fame, because really the fame, she wanted love. That was what she wanted. She didn't
Yeah.
want attention. It's slightly different, isn't it? She just wanted love and to feel love. But she was quite a strong girl, because she did tell someone when this assault happened, when she was about, I think she was about 8 the first time and 12 the second time, but she got told off, which is so sad, because she had the bravery to tell someone and just got told that she was lying and go away. And that probably impacted her, and that adds to your shame, because then you're
Yeah.
like, all right, now I'm a liar as well, now I'm in trouble. And so I wanted to talk about that story, because the story of shame, I suppose, and women going through things like that, because it affects so many people, so many women and men, of course. But this book particularly is just about women, but men, of course, too. Um, and coming from the angle of knowing that feeling, it feels like a
Hmm.
natural thing to explore. And then that goes well into the power of the women who, when they finally do share their stories, even the most shameful, awful, because obviously, don't worry, no spoiler, Flora's shame is kind of even bigger than Marilyn's shame,
Hmm.
because what happened to her led to certain things happening, so it still sort of surrounds her in her life forevermore, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
um, and even in a way, not Mary's shame, I suppose, but Mary, when you actually think about it in the modern world, I often think about this. She was 14, if you believe the story of, that God made her the mother of his child. And I sit here now and think, 14, that's disgusting.
Yeah.
Horrid, but it is.
Yeah.
Um, would Mary have maybe felt like that? I don't know. We don't know.
Yeah.
So it tied. It just kind of tied in nicely with the idea of telling our stories, getting the care. And shame is a difficult one. It's probably the darkest feeling to feel alongside, say, guilt, isn't it?
Yeah.
Shame's an awful one. Shame and guilt, horrible feelings to have, very
Horrible.
difficult ones to process and sort of cope with, which is why I like to explore things like that in books, because then we talk about it, don't we?
Exactly. I do think, I don't know if this is a bit of a hot take, but I don't argue that men will certainly also carry shame, but I do wonder if society is way more comfortable putting shame on women. And I do think we see that time and time again. And I think, I'm really, like most people are, I'm very interested in celebrity culture. And I think for a lot of creatives, we want the attention on our work, because of course you're
Yeah.
creating, you want your work to be
Yeah.
seen, But I think fame can sometimes be a byproduct of your creative work, and that's a part that fame is a part that creatives aren't necessarily comfortable with, understandably so, because of what fame does to people. Do
Yeah.
you want to tell us a bit about exploring the fame and celebrity culture aspects of this story? How it appears for Marilyn, and maybe also how it might crop up for other characters as well.
Yeah, the fame that Marilyn achieved was really, she had to technically, like all the women back in the 50s and onwards, to be fair, and a little bit now still, have to surrender to the needs, wants, desires, instructions of men
Yeah.
to get where they want to be. I do think it's better now. I don't think we're 100% there yet.
No.
Obviously, Harvey Weinstein, just saying.
Yeah, yeah,
We're not there yet. We are there with regards. In Marilyn's day, there was the casting couch, was a very, very real thing.
yeah,
And that was, for any young people maybe listening to this who don't know what that is, basically having to sleep with a producer, a director to get the job.
yeah,
It was so normal that a lot of young starlets would probably not have even really questioned it. They would have just heard, well, we have to do that, so we're going to have to. Marilyn was quite clever. She often tried to avoid it as best she could. There's no doubt she probably had to succumb. She's never talked about, that's probably shame again, isn't it? I've
yeah.
never read anywhere where she's talked about it actually happening, but no doubt it must have done. It absolutely must have done. And so I suppose her fame came really, I suppose, sadly initially, because she, for want of a better phrase, gave men what they wanted.
Hmm.
Ultimately, though, I do think she tried to pull back some control of that. She was one of the first women in Hollywood to form her own production company called Marilyn Monroe Productions, where she tried to get better roles for herself. So there she was, breaking out a little bit, being a bit stronger. And she also wrote an article for a magazine called Wolves I Have Known, where she tried to out some of the darker, shadier people of Hollywood. She didn't name them, she probably didn't dare, but she suggested, what went on, and that went in a magazine. Now that's huge in the 50s to do that. She could have lost her career
Yeah.
with that. So yeah, there was a huge price for the celebrity with Marilyn, and I think as she got older and started to think about what did she really want, and obviously relying on her looks as she got older, and she didn't want to do that anymore. I think this is why towards the end she was quite broken towards the end, not floundering. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
So yeah, fame is cruel. What was it
Hmm.
Marilyn said? She said, "Fame is fickle. So long I've had you, but you can't hug it on a winter's night." And I
Oh
thought,
God,
oh,
how
I know,
gorgeous is
isn't
that?
that? Yeah, it gives me goosebumps. It's like, yeah, you can. It's not a real thing that you can touch, is it? It's not
No.
real. It's this untouchable thing that doesn't really bring you love, because you've got to go home on your own afterwards and just be like, right, here I am on my own. But as I can't remember if I said it earlier to you that, or was it to someone else today, that maybe I've already said this, but I think women are reclaiming Marilyn now. I think
Mm.
in the community, what I'm finding is speaking to a lot of other people who love Marilyn, and it's obviously a centenary year, which is why I brought the book out this year. She would have been 100 this year. I think women are starting to reclaim her and tell her a story how it should have been told. And I'd
Mhm.
love the idea that she'd be up there thinking, thank God, you know, yes, this is who I was, this is who I am, because so many men over the years in the 80s and the 90s wrote her biographies. You didn't really get women writing them, and now women are starting to write about her more, and it's quite magic to see. So I
Yeah.
hope we carry on. Yeah.
What do you think it is about Marilyn that gave her that sort of star quality?
Gosh, I think she was very easily able to make herself vulnerable and make obvious her feelings. By that, I kind of mean that when she was photographed, if she was joyful in the picture, you actually feel it. Like,
Yeah.
when she's joyful in a picture, I feel it. I'm like, I can feel that joy. And somebody called it flesh impact. They said that that's what she's got, that when she's in a picture or she's on the screen, she's very real to the point where you could almost reach out and touch her. So I kind of feel like it's somehow, I don't know, she gave herself so much to us. Because again, she's full of brilliant quotes. As she said, I feel like I belong to the world because I never belonged to anybody else. Actually, that's just made me really sad. Isn't that another sad one?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I belong to the world, so I gave myself to the world because that was what I had. And I think also she she's very honest. She did a nude calendar when she was very young that was then discovered when she was more famous, and they tried to shame her. They tried to say how disgusting Marilyn did this calendar, and she just literally said to them, "Yes, I did. I was young. I needed $50 to get my car fixed. Yes, I did it." And she turned it on its head, and it actually made her more popular because she was very honest about it.
I respect that. Yeah.
I don't know. It's a very difficult thing to evaluate. Why does she endure? Why are we still talking about her all this time? There are many stars, and yet she is one of the ones. Maybe we just see ourselves in her and we feel for her. And we all like to think we would have been the friend that rescued her.
Yeah.
The one who maybe made a phone call to her the night that she died and sort of changed or helped. I don't know, there's a protective element maybe, isn't there, as well, of her.
Wasn't she found with the phone receiver in her hand?
Say that, yeah. So you're like, who was she talking?
Yeah.
I don't, yeah, I know, isn't that
I find stuff like that really like moving, and
very sad, isn't it?
yeah, because you're just never gonna get the answers and know why
I
these things
don't think,
happened.
by the way, that it was anything dodgy like murder. I just don't. They would have proved it by now.
Yeah.
That kind of theory just sells books. And I don't actually think it was suicide. I
Oh,
think it was an
really?
accident. I do honestly.
Yeah.
I think she was a horrific sleeper because of childhood trauma and all of
Yeah.
this. And I just think she was so desperate for sleep that that night she just took too many pills because she couldn't sleep and forgot she'd taken some, maybe took some more, maybe in the middle of the night forgot, took more. I really feel strongly it was a really tragic accident. I really
Yeah.
do, honestly. But people like to think it was murder and
Yeah, they like to
oh,
sensationalize things,
yeah,
don't they?
yeah,
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 yeah. I am really fascinated by her, and I think, it's always so interesting to see the sort of persona that people put out to the world and then what they might actually be like behind closed doors. And I
yeah,
think that's actually true in your book with both Marilyn and with Flora as well.
yeah.
The Flora that she presents to the world is very different
She's
to,
quite tough, isn't she, to the world?
yeah, and
Really,
actually
but
she's got a very
she's not tough.
vulnerable
Yeah,
interior, hasn't she?
yeah.
Which I really loved that you had that sort of contrast in both of these characters. I really want to ask, there is a sort of commonality that you have across Marilyn, the Virgin Mary, and Flora, and that is that all of them come from nothing, which you briefly sort of touched on before. But I wondered if that representation is something that is important to you.
Oh gosh, 100%. Yeah, definitely, definitely. Aside from obviously we both discussed this because we're both that, aside from being a northerner, represent northern. Um,
Absolutely.
I do love a tale of a person, man or woman, who kind of came from nothing because it's so admirable. Because obviously, anyone who's born into money, you can probably do what you want. It's not that admirable if you do anything. It's like, yeah, yeah, your parents helped you. And it's one that I feel so intensely because I grew up in a council house. I had a single parent mum, a really crappy childhood. I was in care in an orphanage briefly, and then got pregnant while I was doing my A levels. Had my lovely son, who is now 35. How can I have a 35?
Gosh.
Yeah, yeah, I know. Quite the scandal of white college I was, sitting my A levels pregnant. So I didn't go to uni because I got pregnant. Not that I don't know if I'd have gone. I wasn't particularly wanting to. So I feel a bit like, I've never had any help from parents. I've not got an education. And everything I've ever had to do, I've had to do it either through being cheeky, taking a chance, being lucky, seeing an opportunity and grabbing it, and just working bloody hard. No one taught me to write. I just loved doing it, and I just wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote until I maybe got good enough, to have a book published. And so I just love these stories of people who do that in some way. And Marilyn did it. Marilyn was the same. Had no money, no family. She wasn't anybody. She did it herself. I mean, okay, there was the Hollywood system, but she still had something special, or
Yeah.
she would not have made it like she did.
Yeah.
To me, they're just the best stories, and I think, don't
Yeah.
we all love them? Someone who just makes a new life for themselves, a better life for themselves.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. Yeah, 100%. I do think we need more of that representation of people that have come from nothing. Also, that northern representation that I've spoke to you about
Yeah,
before, we need more of that.
we
It's
definitely do.
always really refreshing. I really, really enjoyed this book and getting lost in the world of Marilyn. And there's so much that I didn't know about, and
Ah,
so much further reading that you've given me. You've listed some of the books, I think, in the back. Um,
yeah,
so
yeah,
I'm really excited to kind of go off and do more reading on our Marilyn.
yeah.
But what would you like readers to take away from this story?
By the way, I just have to that you called her our Marilyn. I love that because that's what people call her. I find
Oh,
people say that a lot, and in the community, I call it the community because it's just the Marilyn lovers. We call her our girl. It's like she belongs. Is our girl, and it's just lovely, isn't it? Even you instinctively said our Marilyn. You didn't realise you'd said it. I don't think.
I
You said
don't think I did.
Marilyn.
I think I was
Yeah.
just doing the northern thing of like, ah.
Oh, our lads. Oh, Maybe that's what I'll say instead. So, our lass.
Our lass.
Oh my word! What would I like people to take away
Well,
from
there
it?
we go. That's a coincidence as well, actually.
That
That's a
is.
coincidence for you. I
So
didn't
there
know
we
that.
are.
I just came
Hashtag
up with
our
it.
lass. Hashtag our Marilyn. Um, I would like people to kind of take away a lot of the things that you said. Take that away, definitely. I would like them to just take away seeing Marilyn for what she is. And what's marvelous is how many people, like you, have said, I didn't know that much about her. I just knew, they'll say things that I just knew the blonde hair, the red lips, the film, the walk, and the songs. I just knew that. And they said, wow, you brought her to life. She's this real living, pulsating, flawed and human and real and emotional and sensitive person. And you know what? That's probably what I want people to take away from
Yeah.
it. To maybe just see behind the facade. Maybe just
Yeah.
as simple as that.
Definitely. And you can really see your love for her completely shine through this book.
Mm.
So yeah, for the listeners, Wonderful is out now, as I said. I'll be popping a link in the show notes to get yourselves a copy. Lastly, Louise, before I let you go, I do like to finish by asking for a recommendation. Is there anything that you would like to recommend to the listeners? It can be books, TV, film, anything goes for this one. What would you like to recommend?
Okay, so I have just recommended two Marilyn books. I'll tell you what I'm going to recommend. So anyone who's listening to this and thinking, oh, which documentary should I watch? Which film should I watch? The best documentary about Marilyn that I've ever watched is called Love, Marilyn. You'll easily find it if you put that in, just put in Love, Marilyn documentary. And I think it was made about 10 years ago, and it's by a female director. It's all female led, and there's some great stars are actually interviewed in it, Glenn Close and some others.
Wow.
So it's really worth watching just for the celebrity appearances.
Yeah.
And it does a bit what my book does. It talks about the woman behind the myth, as in it opens describing her the way she's so often been described, as what she looks like, what she is, what film she's been in. And then it sort of pauses and said, but that wasn't her. And then it goes into the real her. And it's absolutely lovely. It's heartwarming. Lots of facts in there, lots of footage I've never seen before, which is always a brilliant thing.
Yeah.
So I strongly recommend that documentary.
Amazing. I will be watching that ASAP. So thank you so much. Louise, where can the listeners find you online, if anywhere?
Oh, okay. They can find me everywhere. I'm pretty there. So I'm on Instagram at Louise Beech Swanson. I'm on Facebook just as Louise Beech. I've got a website, www.louisebeech.co.uk, and those are probably the three places I'm mostly on. And I'm good at following back and chatting. So if anyone wants to message me, I'm quite happy to be messaged. I enjoy all that.
Amazing. So I'll be popping links to Louise's book, Wonderful, and links to give her a follow, all in the show notes, as well as the books and documentaries that we've spoken about in this episode today. But lastly, thank you so much, Louise, for coming back on A Pair of Bookends. I have loved chatting to you again, and I love diving into this book, so thank you.
Thank you for having me. It's an absolute pleasure.
And thank you, listeners. If you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. And if you want to give us a follow, you can do so at A Pair of Bookends Pod on Instagram and at A Pair of Bookends on TikTok. You can also find us for more content over on Patreon. That is all we've got time for. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you again, Louise. And goodbye.